Welcome, everybody. I am Mike Thielke, the Executive Director for F3 Tech and the Eastern Shore Entrepreneurship Center. I want to thank you for attending. The idea for this symposium about cybersecurity and agriculture originated within our F3 Tech Accelerator program. For those of you not familiar with F3 Tech, F3 stands for Farm, Fish, Food. It's an accelerator program that advances our country's traditional industries of agriculture and seafood through innovation and technology. Now in its third year of helping early stage companies in agritech and aquatech commercialize new products and services, it became apparent that there is an increasing utilization of data in this sector, and as such, an increased need to protect it. With Maryland being a national leader in cybersecurity and our proximity to the nation's capital and the many federal agencies involved in cybersecurity, it seemed only reasonable to leverage Maryland's cybersecurity talent and resources in meeting the challenges of data in agriculture. And this is what brings us here today. Our objective over today and tomorrow is to increase awareness and advance understanding about cyber and agriculture, bringing these two sectors together in pursuit of connecting cyber tech solutions to agriculture problems and needs. So before we start, let me thank all of our speakers and presenters in agreeing to participate in this symposium. We did not plan a slick, polished, or choreographed event, but rather we hope this will be a casual, though rewarding exchange of information, one that stimulates ideas and opportunities about the developing nexus between cyber and agriculture. So now a couple housekeeping items. A reminder that all sessions are being recorded. You can come and go as you wish via the portal links you've received by email. For today's session, we encourage everyone to select the speaker view in your Zoom configuration. The other thing to keep in mind is that we hope everyone's internet bandwidth cooperates with us today. And last of all, we've populated the agenda with 15-minute breaks between sessions. This allows not only for the opportunity of some of the sessions going a little bit longer than planned, but it also affords everybody an opportunity for a bio break or to catch up on messages and emails. So again, if you bounce out, we encourage you to timely come back in because we'll be keeping on schedule as best we can. Now, a big thank you to our sponsors and partners for this event. CAMI, which is the Cybersecurity Association of Maryland. They're the co-host for today's event. I can't tell you enough about how helpful Samantha Conklin and Christina Majernik and Chris Sache with CAMI were in helping plan and execute this event. So really, I very much appreciate all your help. I also want to recognize Mid-Atlantic Farm Credit and Andrew Rose, who again was a big contributor to the planning and getting this event to occur. The Maryland Department of Commerce was our lead sponsor, and we very much appreciate their support and advocacy for this event. And then we have other sponsors and partners: Edwards Performance Solutions, Evergreen Advisors, Keiko Isom, Larda Institute, Mid-Atlantic Gigabyte Innovation Collaboratory, Right Direction Technology Solutions, and Skyward Apps. So with that, I'm going to turn the baton over to Tom Truitt, who is the CEO of Mid-Atlantic Farm Credit, to give a couple words of welcome.
Sure. Good morning, Mike. I'm Tom Truitt, CEO of Mid-Atlantic Farm Credit, and we're honored to be part of this truly unique event, highlighting the emerging industry of cyber agriculture. For those of you who may not be familiar with Farm Credit, we're a nationwide ag lending cooperative. And as a cooperative, our mission is to support all of agriculture, whether it's the poultry farms that you see driving up down the eastern shore of Maryland, to the emerging sectors of aquaculture and controlled environment operations, and as you'll be discussing today, the growing technology sector of the industry. and really keeping with our cooperative mission and the cooperative tradition of education and providing information important to our communities, we're proud to support this inaugural CyberAg symposium and to be part of the conversation on the threats posed by cybersecurity to the ag industry and really the downstream risks that poses to the food supply chain. And I think for the average citizen, that risk to the food supply chain became very real earlier this year. So I think if there's one thing we probably can all agree on is that disruption is a good word to really describe 2020. Hence, being involved in a virtual conference, as Mike said, having a really slick presentation. I did put my blue blazer on while I sit here in my sweatpants and my slippers. So I guess there is some positive to the disruption from 2020, at least from my end anyway. But really over these next few days, you're going to hear from a variety of speakers, in addition to representatives from the Maryland Department of Commerce, F3 Tech, Cybersecurity Association of Maryland, and a number of others. And it's important that the conversations that are going to be occurring over these next few days continue well after this conference, as we all work together to support the ever-evolving industry that each of us have an integral role in supporting every day. So with that, I'm going to get out of the way. Thanks for your time and have a great event. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Tom. We really appreciate Mid-Atlantic Farm Credit's support in this whole ecosystem. So now what I'd like to do is welcome and give a quick introduction to Senator Katie Fry Hester, who's serving her first term in the Maryland Senate, representing Maryland's 9th District, which includes parts of Carroll and Howard counties. Before entering public service in 2018, Senator Hester spent 20 years working in the private sector to foster sustainable development, multi-sector partnerships, stakeholder engagement, and effective strategic planning with the aim of solving large, complex problems. Throughout her career, she has worked with Fortune 500 companies, small businesses, governments, communities, and nonprofits to create win-win partnerships for sustainable international development. In the General Assembly, Senator Hester has put these skills to use, bringing together diverse groups of experts, advocates, and legislators to work on tough issues like encouraging economic and small business development, improving the overall cybersecurity capabilities of the state, developing innovative solutions for a clean environment, and building a bright future for Maryland's farmers. Senator Hester graduated from Cornell University with a degree in agricultural and biological engineering and has lived in Western Howard County for 15 years with her husband, Bill, and their 2 daughters. And just a sideline, Senator Hester is the chair of a joint committee, if I get this right, biotechnology, cybersecurity, and what else am I missing?
Information technology.
Information technology. Terrific. Well, Senator, please welcome, and if you'd share some welcoming remarks.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the warm welcome and everybody taking their time today to address what I believe is normally an issue that's kind of under the radar, but incredibly, incredibly important. I just wanted to share just a quick story. I grew up with parents who are both plant scientists. And so the family picnics always included like hay rides and barbecue chicken. And my dad did his best to try to embarrass me by wearing a t-shirt that said, "Hey, I'm a fun guy," spelled F-U-N-G-H-I. So I hope that maybe some of the farmers in this crowd will appreciate my mortification as a teenager. No, but as Mike said, I'm very pleased to chair this cybersecurity, IT, and biotech committee, which I think must include about half the GDP of Maryland. And today I just have a few remarks I wanted to share. I wanted to touch briefly first on what we see in technology in the agricultural field, and second on cybersecurity, and third, the intersection of those 2 things. So as you all know, lots have changed in agriculture over the past several decades. I think when I talk to some folks, they still think of farming as what it looks like in a history book, as opposed to what 21st century ag looks like. Today's farmers are turning precision agriculture to manage their fields and increase their crop yields. And just for a sense of scale, A recent study by Hester reports that projects with precision agriculture will grow by 43.4 billion by 2025. Now that is a big number. Now, as technology is giving farmers more data on their fields and greater ability to run their operations more efficiently, it's clear that the future of agriculture is linked to these technological changes. And it's key for several reasons, including food security, economics, and environmental impacts. It's often quoted that farmers will grow 70% more food by 2050 to keep up with global demand. And if this demand wasn't enough, thinking about things like environmental impacts and global weather patterns that could threaten the food supply is really, really interesting. And solving these challenges will really require innovation and adoption of new technologies beyond even what we see today. A friend of mine recently sent me an article in the New York Times that was yesterday, and it was written by Chef Jose Andres from the World Center Kitchen, who argues, and the title of the article was, "We need a Secretary of Food." And he argues that without food security for all of us, the United States will never fully recover from the pandemic. He reminds us that during the pandemic, the food economy started to collapse with restaurants and hotels closing. The food supply chain was broken. We looked at wasted food in some parts of the country. And then he argues that at the highest level of government, when we think of disaster response, there's national security, economic policy, public health, and even agriculture, but there's no single official in charge of food policy in that comprehensive way. And part of that food security, I think, is cybersecurity. So let me just shift gears to point number 2, which is what we're looking at the state level. We're struggling with an IT deficit that makes proactive cybersecurity extremely difficult. We also have a workforce shortage because we've got so many great cyber companies, and they're short too, but we just need more people working in cyber in the state of Maryland. And in terms of the IT deficit, the pandemic has highlighted so much. According to both the Washington Post and the over 400 people calling my office about unemployment claims, Maryland was among the slowest states to pay unemployment, benefits. And when the pressure when the system was placed under the kind of pressure it saw this year, we tried to look at what was behind that. And we found some very old IBM servers in the basement of the Department of Labor. And so even while the Department of Labor was trying to modernize, their systems, they speeded up the Beacon project, but it's still the lack of, a really robust and modern IT infrastructure within the Department of Labor caused, pain to lots and lots of people. You can also see the same kind of thing in our school systems. With all of our kids and teachers going online, the systems have struggled to rush to create, online virtual classrooms, which at the same time create targets for hackers across the country. I think our state CISO said it best when he said to our joint committee last month that technological deficit is cybersecurity deficit. And so we've seen all summer reports of school systems hit with ransomware attacks. And then, 2 weeks ago, the Baltimore County Public Schools were attacked with our victims of a ransomware attack. But the other piece of this is the human side. Having robust cybersecurity measures in place requires people who are attentive and diligent in monitoring these threats. And what I see over and over again as we audit state agencies, they have repeat findings of insecure PII, unfollowed protocols, and lack of attention to cybersecurity. And partially this is because we don't have the workforce to fill those needs. 30% of the positions in IT technology and state government are open. And so it's a huge challenge filling these jobs. And this year, I'm pleased to be introducing 2 pieces of legislation that will help to address this. The first is to create a cybersecurity coordination operations office under MEMA, the Maryland Emergency Management Administration. And this will really work to bridge the gap between state and locals to support local government offices and school systems. And the legislation aims to build, a greater relationship with the emergency management personnel to better create preparedness and coordination throughout the state. Now, it's not a silver bullet, but in terms of operationalizing and getting boots on the ground for cybersecurity preparedness, I think it's really important. The second area is to increase the number of qualified people working in the field through both upskilling of existing employees and hiring new employees. And I'm delighted to be working with Greg Smith and CAMI on this piece of legislation. Many of you may have received a survey from CAMI asking, what your current needs are in terms of skills, and also what you think of a variety of existing state programs. And in this upcoming upcoming session, we hope to be able to better marry those demands and those programs. So if you haven't returned your survey, please do so ASAP. Okay, so what happens when you look at the juncture between the growing technology and IT use in agriculture and cybersecurity? And I hope I don't scare you too much, but one of the other roles I'm on at the national level is serving on the National Council of Legislators Preparedness Committee. And I remember my first session, there's a huge meeting in Austin, Texas, before the pandemic. And I was sitting next to the good senator, I think it was a senator from either Oregon or Utah, might have been Idaho. Anyways, great guy. And so we're talking about wildfires, earthquakes, the flooding in Ellicott City, all these natural disasters. And then we start talking about cybersecurity and critical infrastructure. And he said, we just had this audit done of whatever state it was. And our biggest risk is to water. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, the cybersecurity of our, water, drinking water plants, all their plans were found online. The wrong person found those plans and put, some dangerous chemical at just this right spot. You could kill a lot of people really fast. And I'm like, great. Like, I've just been newly elected to the legislature. Now I've got to deal with these kind of threats. But I do worry that as we see these new increasing automation and tech utilization in our farms, hackers will take advantage of us. I mean, we've seen them target, our schools, most recently county governments. What would prevent them from targeting, our food supply chain? And so we really need to be, aware. I mean, I just keep coming back to this scary thought. What happens if a cyber attack hits some technology that can modify something in our food supply chain and really address, compromise that part of our critical infrastructure? And that is why you all are here today. I mean, I am chairing this committee, but you all are the experts who will actually develop solutions and hopefully share them with us so that we can do what needs to be done. And so I leave you, thinking today about a few key questions. First of all, the practical level, how do we build cybersecurity into the daily routines of farmers whose main concern is, their crops and their animals' well-being? That's a cultural shift. Secondly, how do we train the specialized workforce necessary to adequately support these efforts and initiatives? This will be a massive undertaking to develop this specialized workforce to address the unique cybersecurity concerns of these farms. And the third question is, what type of governance structure needs to be in place to ensure the safety of our farms and our food supply chains? Does Maryland need a chief food security officer? And is one of the roles of that individual to look at the cybersecurity risks of our food supply systems? So as I said, these are huge problems, but I firmly believe that by working together with expertise like all of those folks that we have on the phone today, we can find good solutions to the big challenges of food security and increasing food demand and the environmental challenges that come with both. Our legislative session starts in early January and we have 90 days. It's a long time and a short time at the same time. But if Mike and Greg can vouch for me, we can get a lot done in those 90 days. So I encourage you to have a great conference and to think about, any ideas that you want to share with my office and the committee. And we will do everything we can to make sure that we address those needs during this crazy time during this pandemic in the session of 2021. So thanks again, Mike. Thanks, Greg. And I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Senator. Really appreciate that. I think you've really helped us sort of set the stage for what we're here to do today and tomorrow. I've got a little bit of time to fill before I see our speaker comes on, our next speaker. But just as a reminder, today are a number of plenary sessions where we're all together. And then tomorrow on day 2, we start at 10 o'clock again. We have another plenary session with an interview from the CISO with USDA. Followed by breakout sessions, which will then require everyone to log out and log back in via the portal links that have been emailed to you. In order to go into the individual breakout sessions that you want, you can certainly bounce out of one and bounce into another if you find yourself in the wrong breakout room. Other than that, another reminder is we encourage everybody to please try to put your Zoom onto speaker mode. That way you'll be looking primarily at the individual speaking and not some of the rest of us that are doing multitasking. I'm trying to deal with questions and issues people are having logging in. But otherwise, I don't know if there are any questions that people have at this point for the senator. You're welcome to use the chat or for that matter for Tom. While we're waiting for 10:30 to roll around, I see one of our individuals for 10:30 online, but I don't see our speaker at this point. So I'll throw it open up. Any Q&A or any chat? All right, well, someone's admonishing me. Am I on presentation mode? I guess so. I don't know that there's a way for me to configure it. Okay, someone's saying that you can't put it on speaker mode or gallery mode, so my apologies. So Tom, I see a question for you. How does the Farm Bureau think about cyber?
Yeah, so I think that's probably the best way to start that is that's one of the reasons we're involved with this symposium. You know, look, farm credit's been around for a long time, and like the senator just said, I think probably the majority of the population of the U.S. still has the Waltons in mind when it comes to farming, and has really missed the technological revolution that's occurring, and that has occurred over the past decade. And the senator also mentioned the need for, I believe the exact amount was about 70% increase in production to really meet the global demand in food production by 2050. And the U.S. for the last century has played a huge part in meeting that demand and really being that breadbasket of the world. The U.S. is going to have to really step up to meet that. And you're not going to be able to do that without technology. So what we spend a lot of time on is not looking at serving the needs of agriculture today, but really what's going to be needed 2030 and 2040, and technology is just a huge piece of that. We're seeing that today. You know, your average farmer now is coming up from an engineering background as much as from just a generational piece of it. So for us, we're all citizens. We all live in here. We all have a rooting interest in a stable and productive food supply. But also just from a straight business standpoint, we got to be involved in this sector. So we see it being a huge part of today's business, as well as what's coming down the next couple of decades. Huge challenge for American ag coming at us, but that challenge also, there's a huge opportunity out there.
All right. Well, I still don't see our speaker. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions. Otherwise, we'll just sort of go on a 5-minute bio break while we wait for our speaker, and I'll set up our the person that'll be doing the introduction for our next speaker, and hopefully Aaron will pop on here in a second. So again, Tom, thank you. Senator, thank you. Appreciate you kicking us off. And we'll be back with you at 10:30 here in a few minutes.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a great event.
Thank you.